Jeremiah Daniels had always lived in the quiet lane of life. A black man in his late 30s, he carried himself with calm confidence, the kind that came from knowing exactly who he was and what he was building, even if the world didn't. He preferred blending into the background, his wardrobe simple, his words measured, and his private life closely guarded. On the surface, he looked like an ordinary professional, nothing flashy, nothing to draw attention. Most people, even his own wife, assumed he was some mid-level consultant, earning decently enough but far from extraordinary. That assumption suited him perfectly. Amanda, however, lived for appearances. She was stylish, loud, and endlessly online. Her days were filled with brunches, Pilates sessions, shopping trips, and posts that showcased a lifestyle polished to perfection. She never cared to ask Jeremiah what he truly did. As far as she was concerned, he was stable, quiet, and uninspiring, but convenient. The truth was, she hadn't married him for love so much as for comfort. 6 years earlier, at a startup pitch event, she'd nearly brushed him off until he casually mentioned he worked in tech. That was enough to spark her interest, even though she never bothered to learn that Jeremiah wasn't just in tech. He was quietly funding and building an AI-driven real estate platform that was reshaping property development across several major cities. To Amanda, his low-key demeanor meant he lacked ambition. She never realized it was deliberate. Jeremiah chose discretion, preferring to let his work speak in the shadows while others fought for the spotlight. And so, while she flaunted luxury she didn't earn, Jeremiah continued investing his time and brilliance into an empire no one yet knew he owned. But empires can be invisible to those who refuse to see them, and Amanda was blind by choice. That blindness ended the day Jeremiah found a hotel receipt tucked carelessly in her gym bag. The name on the booking wasn't his. The evidence was undeniable. She had been unfaithful, and she hadn't even bothered to hide it well. The discovery shifted everything. Quiet breakfasts turned into tense silences. Shared spaces became battlegrounds of avoidance. And before long, divorce papers replaced wedding vows. Amanda entered the courthouse strutting in her designer heels, her lawyer at her side. She wore a smirk that suggested she believed she had already won. To her, divorce meant freedom, an escape from the man she mocked as ordinary. She laughed under her breath when she signed the documents, leaning over to mutter, "Finally, I can be with someone who actually has money." Her lawyer chuckled, assuming it was true. Across from her, Jeremiah sat in his familiar navy sweater, the same one he had worn to their wedding rehearsal dinner. He looked calm, almost indifferent. He didn't argue, didn't even flinch. He simply watched, fingers interlaced, as Amanda signed away what she thought was an empty life with a broke man. She didn't realize she was about to sign away something far more valuable. The courtroom was filled with the hushed tension of unfinished business. Amanda lounged confidently beside her attorney, her laughter still echoing faintly from the hallway, as if this was all some game she had already won. She twirled her pen as though signing away a marriage was no more significant than jotting down a grocery list. To her, this was victory, freedom, and a payout. Jeremiah, however, sat silently, his calm demeanor betraying nothing. His lawyer, an older man with silver hair and a reputation for precision, leafed through a thick folder of documents. Amanda assumed it was all standard paperwork. She glanced over dismissively, certain there was nothing to worry about. The judge, a seasoned woman with a reputation for sharp eyes and sharper words, adjusted her glasses and looked down at the file before her. "Mrs. Daniels," she began, her tone measured but faintly edged with irony. "You've requested spousal support as part of these proceedings. Based on your claims, you state your husband's income is insufficient to sustain your lifestyle, and that you should receive a settlement from his limited assets." Amanda smirked. "Exactly, Your Honor. I've been supporting myself this whole marriage." The judge raised an eyebrow and tapped the folder. "That's an interesting interpretation of the facts." She flipped a page, her gaze shifting to Jeremiah. "Mr. Daniels, it seems you've been remarkably modest about your finances." Amanda rolled her eyes. "What finances?" The judge cleared her throat. "According to verified records, Mr. Daniels is the founder and primary shareholder of Urban AI Real Estate Technologies, currently valued at $2.4 billion. The silence that followed was absolute. Amanda's smirk fell, her pen clattering to the table. Her lawyer blinked rapidly, flipping through his notes as if to confirm what he had just heard. Jeremiah sat perfectly still, his hands folded neatly, watching his wife's expression unravel. "Wait, what?" Amanda stammered, her voice louder than she intended. That can't be right. He works in IT or something." "He doesn't." The judge cut her off, her tone firm. "The valuation is confirmed. Mr. Daniels owns 70% of the company. His current net worth places him among the wealthiest entrepreneurs in the region. I suggest you listen carefully before you embarrass yourself further." Gasps rippled from the gallery, a few whispers breaking the silence. Amanda's face flushed red, her earlier laughter now replaced by shock and disbelief. She turned to Jeremiah, her mouth opening and closing as though words might somehow rewrite the facts. But Jeremiah didn't gloat. He didn't smile, didn't even meet her eyes. He simply sat, calm as ever, allowing the truth to do what he never had to: speak for him. The judge continued, "Given this, the court finds Mrs. Daniels' request for spousal support unfounded. In fact, considering her admitted infidelity, she is entitled to nothing beyond the agreed division of minor assets." Amanda's world tilted. What she thought would be her ticket to freedom and fortune had transformed into humiliation in front of a room full of strangers. The man she mocked for being ordinary had just been revealed as extraordinary beyond her imagination. And she realized, too late, that she had laughed away a life most people would dream of. Amanda's face remained frozen long after the judge's words echoed through the courtroom. Her perfect posture slumped, and her manicured fingers twitched nervously on the desk. The confident woman who had strutted in, heels clicking like victory drums, now looked like a trapped bird flailing inside a cage. Her lawyer leaned toward her in a frantic whisper, but Amanda barely heard him. She couldn't take her eyes off Jeremiah. He was calm, almost serene, as if he had predicted this moment all along. The stillness in his expression mocked her panic. "Your Honor," Amanda finally stammered, her voice trembling. Surely I'm entitled to something. I gave years of my life to this marriage. I sacrificed for him." The judge fixed her with a piercing stare. "Mrs. Daniels, the court has reviewed your financial disclosures, as well as Mr. Daniels. The evidence shows that you lived off his earnings while spending extravagantly, and you contributed neither financially nor responsibly to the marriage. Additionally, your infidelity negates any claim to spousal support. The law is quite clear." Amanda's cheeks burned. The courtroom felt suddenly smaller, the whispers from the gallery louder. She remembered laughing at Jeremiah just minutes earlier, smugly declaring she'd finally be free of him and find someone with money. Now those words came back to her like knives. Panic surged. She leaned toward Jeremiah, her voice desperate, pleading. "Jeremiah, please, I didn't mean what I said. You know I was just upset. We can work this out, can't we? We don't have to go through with this." Her words tumbled out in a rush, clumsy and unconvincing. Jeremiah finally turned his head and looked at her. His gaze was steady, his expression unreadable. When he spoke, his voice was low and deliberate. "Amanda, you made your choices. And today you've signed the papers to prove it. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for peace." His words cut deeper than anger ever could. There was no bitterness, no desire to punish, only a finality that Amanda couldn't fight. She realized, in that moment, she wasn't just losing wealth. She was losing the man who had once been her foundation, even if she never saw it. As the hearing concluded, the judge's gavel struck like a nail in a coffin. Amanda was left with nothing but the shallow image she had crafted for herself. No alimony, no luxury safety net, no husband quietly shielding her from the storm. Reporters outside the courthouse swarmed for comment, their cameras flashing. Amanda shielded her face, pushing past them with her lawyer trailing helplessly behind. She had entered the courthouse as the woman who thought she was escaping mediocrity. She left it exposed, empty-handed, and humiliated on a very public stage. Jeremiah, on the other hand, walked out through a side entrance, unnoticed, unbothered. For him, the ordeal was already over. He wasn't chasing validation, nor was he interested in her downfall. His wealth wasn't just in billions. It was in his self-control, his ability to rise above the chaos. Amanda, desperate and defeated, realized what she had thrown away wasn't just money. It was a man of quiet strength and unwavering integrity, something far rarer than wealth. The courthouse chapter closed, but the ripple effects of that day carried far beyond its walls. For Amanda, life shifted sharply and painfully. She returned to an empty apartment, stripped of the illusions she had once paraded online. Friends who had eagerly joined her for brunches and shopping trips now avoided her calls. Without Jeremiah's quiet financial backing, the designer clothes and luxury trips she flaunted were no longer affordable. The perfect life she had built on social media collapsed, post by post, until her once-envied profile became a silent reminder of a life squandered. She tried reaching out to Jeremiah several times. Late-night texts filled with apologies, emotional voicemails promising she had changed, desperate letters mailed to his office. But none were answered. The silence was not cruelty, it was clarity. Jeremiah had made his choice, and it didn't include her anymore. Jeremiah, meanwhile, embraced his new freedom with quiet determination. Divorce, for him, wasn't an end but a clearing of space. He poured more energy into urban AI real estate technologies, leading his team into groundbreaking projects that reshaped urban housing. His leadership style, calm and visionary, attracted admiration in the industry. Investors who once underestimated him now sought his partnership eagerly. Yet, despite his growing fame, Jeremiah stayed grounded, maintaining the same unassuming wardrobe and humble routines. He also began investing in people, not just properties. He launched scholarships for underrepresented students in tech, quietly funded community programs, and became a mentor to young entrepreneurs who had big ideas but little support. Unlike Amanda, Jeremiah knew wealth was not measured by what you flaunted but by what you built and shared. In time, Jeremiah's personal life blossomed too. At a charity gala for one of his scholarship programs, he met Maya, an educator whose passion for lifting others mirrored his own. Their connection wasn't born out of convenience or appearances, but mutual respect and shared values. With her, Jeremiah found something he had never experienced in his marriage with Amanda: partnership. Amanda, on the other hand, watched from afar. News articles praised Jeremiah's innovations, highlighting his rise as one of the most influential tech leaders of his generation. Each headline was a reminder of what she had mocked and dismissed. The irony was brutal. She had laughed at him during the divorce, assuming she was stepping up. In reality, she had walked away from a man whose character, vision, and quiet brilliance had built an empire. The lesson was clear and cruel. She had traded dignity for vanity, respect for arrogance, love for greed. And in doing so, she lost everything. Jeremiah's story wasn't one of revenge but of redemption. He hadn't needed to expose Amanda. The truth had revealed itself in due time. His greatest victory wasn't his billions, it was his peace. And as he looked toward the future, hand in hand with Maya, Jeremiah knew he had gained something Amanda never could: a life built on integrity, respect, and genuine love.